In this video, I'm going to show you how research has transformed my career and how it can and will transform yours too. My name is Rhanderson Cardoso. I'm a cardiologist in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm the founder of the Meta-Analysis Academy, a community of doctors and medical students that have a mentality of publishing high-impact papers on their own, independently, and with that, transforming their medical career. So if you think that this content is helpful to you, if you have this mentality as well, consider subscribing in this channel and following our content. I bet that you think that you need to be at Hopkins, Harvard, at the Cleveland or Mayo Clinic, at the best institutions in the world to do high impact publications and research. That's a very common misconception. It's actually the opposite. It is because you want to reach these institutions, because you want to go to these high places, that you need to do research. And in this channel, I'm going to share with you tips how you can do that exactly. And today I'm going to tell you about how I did that in my own career. Now, when I was a resident at the University of Miami, a first-year resident, I didn't know exactly how to get high impact papers done to advance my career, to do a cardiology fellowship. And then I learned this one specific method that has allowed me to do that, has allowed me to publish papers independently, regardless of the environment and the people around me, with the support of those people eventually. But I learned a method that was in my hands, that was in my control to publish these high impact papers. And I want to share that with you here in this channel. So I'm going to start this journey with when I was a medical student in Brazil. And I knew very early on in my training that I wanted to come to the United States for residency. So I started working towards that goal. In addition to taking the USMLEs and working on my ECFMG certification, I also started thinking about research at the time. And it was very hard as a medical student to get meaningful research done. I see this commonly in my colleagues and my students. At that time, I started doing case reports like most people do. And then I also had the opportunity to work with a group there and present an abstract at the Heart Rhythm Society when I was a fifth-year medical student, close to the end of my medical school. So this was a meeting in the United States, and it was a big deal at the time, both for my university and for myself personally. But when I applied for residency in the United States, I didn't have a lot of meaningful research. Like I said, I had these case reports and I had maybe one abstract presented internationally, no publications in PubMed at the time. And I was very successful in that match. I got a position at the University of Miami for internal medicine. But at that point, I knew that I needed to do something different. But to get into a more competitive program for a competitive fellowship, I needed to get more impactful research done. I needed to do publications, high impact ones, and I needed volume. So during my first year of residency at the University of Miami, I tried to reach out to a lot of people, potential mentors. And in the beginning, I struggled. In the beginning, it was hard for me to get research publications done. It was hard for me to connect with people because I was working a lot as a first year resident, working up to 80 hours a week. But ultimately, I learned one specific method that transformed my career, that gave me the ability to do research on my own. And that's a method that I can share with you as well. That's exactly what I teach here in the Meta-Analysis Academy. Of course, I'm talking about systematic reviews and meta-analysis. With that method, I started publishing research related to systematic reviews and meta-analysis in my first year of residency, even working 80 hours a week. Even as a very busy resident and clinician, I was able to publish 6 or 7 papers, most of them as first authors during that year. And this gave me the ability to build a strong CV and later on apply for fellowship in cardiology. So during the 3 years of internal medicine residency plus 1 year of chief resident, I ultimately was able to obtain approximately 20 publications, which is a very high number. And that was only possible because I learned this one specific method that gave me the control, that put the authority, the ability to publish high impact papers in my hands. I wasn't dependent on the environment and anything or anyone around me. I ultimately found great mentors at the University of Miami and people that really helped me in my career. But it was a large part of that was because I ultimately found how to do these research, these publications on my own, and was able to connect with these people, with great mentors through that specific method. So the next step in my career was to ultimately apply for that cardiology fellowship program. And because I had learned this method, I came a lot more prepared for this application cycle for cardiology than I had been for internal medicine. In fact, as I mentioned, I had at that point about 20 papers already. So when I applied for for a cardiology fellowship, I got great interviews. I interviewed at Massachusetts General Hospital, Harvard Medical School. I interviewed at University of Michigan at the time, Mayo Clinic, and other great places. And one of those places was the Johns Hopkins Hospital, one of the best universities and hospitals in the world. And I ultimately matched in that program, I believe, in part because I had done an excellent job as a resident, because I was chief, I had been chief resident, but then also this strong CV, this curriculum that had all these publications and papers associated with it. If you want to match in a prestigious institution like Hopkins or other academic places in the United States, research and publications are really critical. During my years at the Johns Hopkins Hospital, I continued to publish systematic reviews and meta-analysis, and then I also started expanding to other methods of research as well. During those years, I connected with great mentors in this very prestigious university, and ultimately the connections that I made over there helped me to move one step further in my career to Harvard Medical School, Brigham and Women's Hospital as a cardiac imaging fellow. In my years as a cardiac imaging fellow at the Brigham, I was incredibly busy. It's a very high volume program. I routinely read 15 or 10 cardiac CTs every day, a lot of cardiac MRIs, tons of echocardiograms. But then because this specific method, the systematic review and meta-analysis, because it allows you to use your time very efficiently, I was able to still continue applying this research method. Now, you may think that you don't have time to do research. You may think that you're too busy as a resident or as an intern or as a medical student, as a clinician, as a surgeon. And that is exactly why you need to learn the same method. As I pointed out in this story that I just told you, during these years, I was a resident, I was a fellow, I was working 80 hours a week, and I was still able to consistently, year after year, get 3, 4, 5, 7 publications year after year. While I was very busy as an intern, as a resident, as a fellow, as a chief fellow, I still was able to get these systematic reviews and meta-analysis done. I expanded my research portfolio outside meta-analysis. Today, I work on randomized controlled trials with a group at my hospital, but I still keep this research going on systematic reviews and meta-analysis because they give me volume, they give me impact on my curriculum. As you may know, systematic reviews and meta-analysis are at the top of the pyramid of evidence. They are even above randomized controlled trials when well conducted. So if you know how to do this method, it saves you a lot of time and allows you to get a lot of volume. Impact and volume, quality and quantity. And you may ask, how does it save you time? Well, the beauty of systematic reviews and meta-analysis is that the primary data that you use to publish your papers is already done for you. This is very important. With a systematic review and meta-analysis, you do not need to go through an IRB, an ethics committee. You do not need to recruit patients. Your primary data will be studies that are already published in the literature, and you will perform a quantitative synthesis of those studies to produce your own publication. So this is really a beautiful method that allows you to publish at the top of the hierarchy of evidence on your own, independently, and with that, transform your career. So if this makes sense to you, if you understand this message and you want to apply it on your career as well, if you want to get high impact papers done independently, regardless of the environment around you, consistently, year after year, and build your long-term, medium-term career in that way, the same way that I did, and in the same way that a lot of my students or learners, that people that learn from me have already also done, if you want to apply that in your career as well, I have an invitation for you. I want you to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. Building this community around you is also one of the most important steps that you can do to advance your career. The minute I learned this method, I started teaching it to everybody around me, and their results, their publications have benefited me because I have been co-authors in their research as well. So stay tuned for this channel to learn more and ultimately to become a meta-analysis master yourself.